Hello, Nakmeezy. Can you hear me?
Yo,
How's it over where you are? How's it going over there?
this is a beautiful day. Got some
Um,
bread as usual. I'm happy, healthy, and handsome. Triple H.
hey, listen. I as long as you in pocket, that's what I think every man. I wish that for every man. So as long as you in pocket, that's the best thing. Yes, yes. So without further ado, if you wanted to launch your premise, um, I'm all ears to hear your premise.
I'm the guest here. Let's just see where we agree and where we disagree. Okay. So, do you believe that Africans or continental Africans hold responsibility for the transatlantic slave trade?
That's a broad um, that's a very broad statement. I would say certain continental Africans that we can trace back their lineage to who are still in power to this day.
Hmm. So let's dial it down. Okay. West and Central Africans who can trace their lineage or their family or their people to either people that were in power or people that let's say like people that were military for some of these empires, right? Which a lot of times were the slave raiders. What do you think about that?
Again, the people who were the slave riders and the slave traders, um, they're well documented. The Europeans left a good enough record as to who was doing what and which people they were engaging with.
Yeah, I agree. The Europeans actually I met Brandon, and was it Brandon? It was one of these guys on here. I said that the European kept impeccable records, and they did. So yeah, there are certain empires and
You mean Pan
kingdoms.
Africanism Strikes Back, Brandon? Him
Yeah,
or?
that dude. Yeah, him.
Oh, okay.
Um,
You guys have met before. Okay, okay.
yeah, a long time ago. Well, not yeah, a long time ago. So there are certain empires like the Ashanti Kingdom, who are directly responsible for slave trading, raiding, and being in cahoots and business partners with the Portuguese, the Dutch, and then the English. And I believe that they were the longest in the pockets of the Dutch. So there's about 300 years of history between the Ashanti Kingdom specifically and the Dutch. If you go down, it's another Akan subgroup or Akan group called the Fanti. They were with the English. And if you look at or look up the Asafo flag, it's like there's an English flag in it, So there's a lot of working between
Now, again, keep
Africans
in mind
and
when you say this, right? When you say this, you have to
well,
understand.
I didn't finish saying
Oh, I'm
anything
sorry. Go
because
ahead.
I
Go ahead.
wasn't finished. So there's documented history of West African or leadership of ethnic groups that were working with Europeans. And in some cases, specifically in the fancy, there were the lay people who were against it. But again, the kings and the chiefs a lot of times do things that are not in the interest of their subjects, so to speak.
No, that's a great point. You kind of you said what was already supposed to be said, right? That I think what's missing in the historical context is that we don't take into account what occurred during that 1500s, 1400s, what was occurring in West Africa and Central Africa, right? And why did the so-called elites start to look towards the sea, right? That's where you actually start to see the rise of these so-called marine deities, these water deities, these water spirits, the Mami Wata, and all these other things that bring in wealth. Right, the water is seen to bring in wealth. Maritime trade, which ironically the Western system is built on maritime trade, right? So you get a person is born by a dock, right? And all, and you can look at Jordan Maxwell and see how English is full of maritime law, right? Maritime and common law within the things they say. We say partnership, relationship, right? If you have money, you're liquid, right? Even in the court system, you have a bench and you have the bar. These are all terms that go back to maritime law. There's a part in the courtroom called the well, right? And you have a bailiff who bails you out from the water or you're dead in the water, things of that nature. So the European created this maritime so-called trade, right, where which ties into the uh, need for global trade. And so now the first people, so we can go back to the first people who grabbed Africans off the coast, and this wasn't a trade, they grabbed them, it's documented, were the Portuguese. And the Pope gives the Portuguese, he says, I can't pronounce it in Latin, but the word is propagation, which is where we get the word propaganda from. And the whole premise is to propagate the faith. And so they were locked in this battle with the Saracens or the so called Moors. And the Pope says, yes, you are entitled to do whatever you need to do to win souls over for Christ, more importantly, for the church. So the Portuguese grab Africans out of, the, what's up, Mr. Untouchable? So the Portuguese grab Africans out of the coast, grab them, throw them in ships. And that's what begins this so-called slave trade. So I'll push the mic back to you.
When you say so-called slave trade, are you denying that it existed?
No, I'm saying that when you say a trade, right? Um, for me, and maybe this is my conjoined way of looking at it, or my uh, twisted way of seeing it. On one side, you have a sophisticated class of individuals who are coming with insurance companies, who are coming with a whole set of goods, who are coming with an ideology and um, a language that reflects a reality that these people don't have per se. And if you look at, okay, for example, I believe there's a book and there's a PDF I read years ago, What Africans Got for Their Slaves. And you compare to what the Europeans got the Americas, the Europeans got the Industrial Revolution. Africa didn't get that. And
So
so,
again,
yeah,
are
go ahead.
you denying the
No, I think
existence
no, I
of
think when I say
trade?
so-called, you see, I don't know why you reduce it to a denial. I'm
No,
placing
I
it.
didn't. I didn't say that you denied. I'm asking if you denied because of your
No, I
usage.
didn't deny. Yeah, my use of language was more to shed light to say that this so-called trade, again, I'm using the word so-called trade, was not beneficial to the party that people say, oh, they were trading slaves. And it's like, even in hindsight, one can go back to those people and say, yo, you guys were freaking morons. Not only did you get the short end of the stick, you pretty much gave away, in many aspects, some of your best talents, all for Dutch clothes, gin, manillas, iron rods, pipes, cannons, and gunpowder.
Right. So back to my original thing, because I want to just get this out there. When you say so-called trade, are you saying so-called? Are you acknowledging that it was trade, but it was just a lopsided trade? where the
Yes,
Africans got the shit
lopsided,
under them.
very lopsided, but that's why I'm
Okay.
saying so called because the
No, but
narrative
it's
that
not so
go ahead.
called. It's still trade. It's
No,
just the
because
European put themselves in a better position, but they still traded.
the
So it's
reason
not
why
a so called trade. It's literally the
well, I
slave
want to tell
trade.
you why I say so-called trade. The reason why I say that is because the nuance of what we just said, literally 10 seconds ago, is never brought up. Now,
No,
some
that's
people
not
do bring it up,
nuance.
but
What you're trying to do is minimize when
no,
you
I'm
say
not
so called
minimizing.
when you say so called trade, you're casting doubt on whether it was a trade. And then you
That's
have to
your
really
interpretation.
well, no, it's not my interpretation. When you say so called to something that was a trade, it wasn't a so called trade. It was literally the transatlantic slave trade. There's no so called. Even if it was a lopsided trade, if the Africans got a shit end of the stick, it was still trade. Correct or incorrect?
I think I don't want us to split hairs on that. So what I'll
No,
do
no,
is,
we're gonna,
yeah,
I'm splitting hairs like a Puerto Rican barber on Tremont. When you say so-called trade, when you say stolen
I've already
African,
stated my position. I
no, wait,
stated my position. Yeah, go
hold
ahead.
on. When you say stuff like so-called trade, stolen Africans, and these are the reasons why there's a lot of contention with Black Americans and specifically Nigerians. All right, um, you guys tend to use language that absolves you of culpability. When you speak to a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade and you say the so-called trade, just to speak about that it was lopsided, you'd be better off saying the lopsided trade and still acknowledge that it was a trade. So-called puts calls it into doubt. So I'm not going to let that slide. If you're saying it's getting lost in translation, you sent the message wrong. If it was a
No, no.
trade, it was a trade. It wasn't so called. It was the transatlantic slave trade. Correct or incorrect?
Once again, so what I've stated my position to say, and I stated it to tell you that I called it and referenced it the so-called slave trade, not to deny that people were not taken and traded from Africa to the Americas.
Right.
I never stated that. I never denied it. However, I put it in that context to highlight the imbalance, not to remove culpability from the specific Africans who are responsible for that trade imbalance.
Hmm.
And more likely that genocide. I don't even want to call it a trade. I think to call it a trade is in my opinion whitewashing what was really a form of not just physical genocide but cultural genocide.
It's a
Because
holocaust.
yeah, it's a holocaust. It's
Right.
much more deeper than a trade. So I wasn't saying it to minimize. No, I would never minimize, because at the end of the day these are my family members who were also taken. They're not
Right.
distant from me. So I wouldn't look at it and say, oh, yeah, no. At the end of the day, like I tell a lot of African Americans, look, imagine me and you sitting in a village, some people come who look like us, bust us upside the head. I never see you again for the rest of my life. I don't know what happens to you. I'm distraught. I'm losing my mind. And then you're marched all the way to the coast, beaten, you know, fed, malnourished, put in a boat. You're treated worse than the worst of anything. Then you're put in this place for 400 or 500 years. No, no income paid to you for your labor, stripped of the culture that we had. Of course, you went through it worse, but I'm gonna still sit down there. If that happened to my actual biological brother, I'd be in tears. I'd be distraught. So I think that's part of the reason why, like you said, a lot of African Americans have a issue with Africans is because Africans don't take that position to understand that no, one, this is your brother and this is what your brother went through. And I'll stop there.
No, I mean that's why I'm even having a conversation with you because you and I had the conversation and you look at it in a way that in my opinion more people should look at it, right? that they lost family members and things of that nature, because that's exactly what happened. You know, some people got caught lacking, some people got caught slipping, right? And those people had family, those people had land, those people had, possessions, and they were taken and then sold off to the so-called new world. But like I said, these conversations, right? They are they're going to be sensitive in nature, right? And words matter. When you're speaking to a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade and you say so-called, we can go on to a tangent, right? And go left just for clarification. And I didn't really mean it that way. I didn't mean it that way. But any word that is going to, on my side, minimize or make it seem like something it wasn't, or cause doubt into what it was, and say the trade, the so-called trade, is going to be a point of contention. We know that it was a trade. If we're going to say that the African caught the short end of the stick, then call it a lopsided trade deal. To call it the Europeans had better business acumen, call it whatever it was, but it was a trade. So this is what I'm saying. When we have these conversations between um, long lost cousins, right? We just have to understand that the words matter, the terms matter. I try to use ethnic group instead of tribe when I'm speaking to continental Africans, right? Because I know that word tribe can conjure up colonial images in people's heads. So that's me saying, all right, I know y'all don't really like the word tribe. So when I'm having a conversation with y'all, I'll refer to you guys as your different ethnic groups. This is called internal customer service, right? So I think, this is good that we're having this little precursor,
No,
this
it's
little ritual.
necessary. It's
Yeah,
necessary
it is.
because here's the thing. For me, um, outside of like F you, your mother and stuff like that, whatever language you choose to use, I one, we're not speaking in our mother tongue. You understand what I'm saying? So we're forced to use a language that's English. That's what we're forced to engage with. So for me, if you said tribe, I wouldn't personally. This is me. I wouldn't be like, yo, why'd you say tribe? I'm not gonna.
Right.
I
But
might push
some
back and
people
say,
don't
hey,
like that.
no, yeah, and I get that, but I at least so we can moving forward, like again, outside of like a blatant like, yo, my mother's a lesbian or vice versa, something crazy like that. I want you to feel comfortable to use whichever language that you feel is appropriate. And if I feel like, hey, can you explain that further? I can explain further. Just like when I said so-called, and then I point to say, no, actually, this is a Holocaust. This is a genocide. You understand what I'm saying? Now you understand, like, oh, okay, he's not saying so-called slave trade to just mean this. So, nah, it's definitely necessary. But I think for the conversation, I want you to feel free to use the language that you use, but still, like you said, we'll both maintain that internal customer service. Definitely.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So look, let's recap. What do we agree on? We agreed that it existed. We agreed that there were certain nations that were culpable. See,
Certain individuals within those nations. So because now we'll get specific.
we'll talk about the leadership of these nations, and the leadership of African nations from then all the way to now has always been the issue, right? So it's the leadership, it's the king, and then the chiefs, and then the people, that were in these armies and things of that nature, the traders and stuff like that, right? So yeah, look, the layperson um is not, in my opinion, included in that, right? Unless they can trace their lineage back to, um, you know, people who are actually culpable. But so that we're not splitting hairs here, right? There are ethnic groups whose leadership were directly involved in the selling of other Africans. Can we agree on that?
1,000%, 1,000,000,000%. And
Right.
and and just to put it clear for the record, a lot of times my fight is actually with those people who are perhaps descendants or who are defending those people, right? I've said it numerous times to other Africans. I said, you're no different, even though because of that, you've accused me of being so called dusty, right? In my bid to challenge these Africans, because
Right.
these are the same Africans who want development, who want to so called develop, and they're the same type of mentality who sold people like you and I when we were saying, nah, let's take a step back. And I have document proof that showed like this is what was occurring. You had the so-called elite Africans who,
Mm-hmm.
in their bid to get Indian clothes, madras from the Netherlands, to get, as a matter of fact, I'll take it even deeper. People don't even realize the cowrie shell. You see all these African girls putting cowrie shells on their hair, or the men
Yeah.
wearing it. That's not even, there's only one cowrie shell that's indigenous to West Africa.
Right.
They
Right.
actually imported billions, I would argue trillions, but billions of cowrie shells documented from all over into West Africa. What did that effectively do? That monetized the West African economy. So you'll see, for example, a modern day Nigerian politician. We've had numerous reports of this, where the authorities will seize a house, and you have dollars buried under the ground that are rotting away or animals have eaten, and then archaeologists and anthropologists will go into, hey, what's going on, Abby? You have archaeologists and anthropologists who will go into parts of the villages in West Africa, and they'll dig and they'll see these so-called chiefs, slavers, also were burying cowrie shells, just like their same coons, Uncle Toms, who are burying dollars to oppress the people. So when I tell Africans, whoa, I'm not saying people shouldn't have running water and electricity. I'm just saying, slow down before you take anything from this Euro man. Slow down. And you're crazy. I said, listen, you're an enslaver, because of this bid to be whitewashed, you will sell me just like they did back then. Because when people like me said, whoa, let's slow down, you guys refuse. What do you have to say to that? Because you've called me dusty for that argument, but I don't know if you understood why I was being hesitant. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Where I called you Dusty for what?
Well, like I said, I've argued not that Africa shouldn't so-called develop, but that Africa should be careful in their mimicry and absorption of all things European and Western, because they're not, for example, thinking about the actual cost. So look at the ecological cost, right? The entire Niger Delta is screwed up. Now, the leaders in Nigeria don't care. But this is the same mentality that a William Pebble, who was the largest slave trader in the Delta. A lot of people don't
William
even know about
Pebble,
this guy. Yeah,
Pple. Yeah, the
yes,
Ejaw
Pebble.
man. Ejaw
Yes,
man.
yes, him, right?
Yo,
There's another one.
his whole
Nana,
line with slave traders, bro.
say again?
It's like I think it was in 1709 going forward, and just excuse me, but the Pepples, William, Captain Pepple, King
Yes.
Pepple,
And
they're all
they sent their kids abroad to get, they sent their kids. A lot of their kids were studying in abroad. A lot of their kids were actually studied in England and parts of Europe. You
now
had
let me
Nana
pass the mic
of
from you.
Ishakiri. Now I'm gonna give you more people. You had Nana of Ishakiri. You had
Yeah.
the Arochukus. You
Mm-hmm.
had Madame Tinubu.
Madam Tinubu. I always call Tunija the grandson of Madam
Oh,
Tinubu.
let's not talk about this guy, because I don't want to bring him up. He,
Nah, he's my
again,
brother. He's
so
my brother.
no, listen, he's your brother, but again, I just want you to understand, me and him are ideologically on opposite ends of the spectrum. And a
Right.
lot of what he says, for me, I'm like, dude, you would have sold me into slavery, because I'm telling you, we don't need half that stuff. And you're telling me, come on, man, we need to advance. Well, it's that same mentality of so-called advancing that allows a person to grab another human being for a trinket, for some Dutch gin.
Mm. Now let
This
me
is the
grab the mic. Let
mentality.
me grab
Yeah,
the
go
mic.
ahead, brother.
So now when you talk about this is like the stuff that I like when we can start saying names, right? So when you talk about Nigeria, I'm gonna take it to Ghana, right? The eighth king of Ashanti, Kweku Duapani. When you spoke about they send their kids abroad. He sent his son and his nephew to the Netherlands, right, to study at one of these universities somewhere around where I live, right? And that was in exchange for Ashanti warriors to fight on behalf of the Dutch in Indonesia. They called them Belanda Hitam, which means the Black Dutchman. So there's specific people, like you gotta name the names, right? So Kweko Dua Panin, when you talked about, certain people with direct lineage and stuff, right? You've heard of I think his name is Sariki Abbas Williams or Abbas Sariki Williams. You ever heard of him?
Vaguely,
Sariki.
remind me, remind.
All right, Sariki. He was a slave trader. He was like I think he was in Calabar. And he had gone. He was like a servant of some Dutch person in Brazil. Came back, and then he had um created this 40 room, or it could house 40 slaves, a barracoon or something like that. And he was a slave trader, a Nigerian slave trader. And today, in that same place, they have like this slave museum, right? And his great great grandson is now there giving tours. So when we say you sold us, or you are responsible, these are the type of people that I really zero in on. Is like, I like to name the name. So that person is living today and has a direct lineage to Seriki, Seriki, Abbas Williams, who was in cahoots with the Dutch via Brazil, selling Africans. So we're not in disagreement that there are individuals who were responsible. There are kingdoms that I wouldn't say that they got rich off of it, but they strengthened their ties with the Europeans through providing slaves, which or enslaved Africans that these Europeans then use to build up their colonies. And what happened is the people, like let's say the Ashanti Kingdom, that shit is kind of dusty, bro. So they fumbled the bag. They didn't do shit with the shells, the schnapps, the rifles. Well, they did do slave raids with the rifles, the umbrellas, and all the nigger trinkets, I like to call it. They didn't really expound on it, and they dropped the ball. I give back the mic.
Yeah, look, I've just pulled him up. I don't know if you're near a computer, but you can see this guy right here. He wasn't in Calabar. He was because when you said Seriki, I was like, no, that's a Yoruba name. Yeah, he was from he was from Badagry. These are the people. They were under
Yeah, but
the
Dagry, I'm
Madam
sorry, bro. Let's
Tinubu.
put
Yeah,
that
yeah.
there.
These were no, it's all good, brother. Look, there's so many of these morons that again, we got to hold these people accountable. And the African, who is the layperson, has to also hold these people accountable, because these are the people who have put us. Look, I always tell people all the time, you look at, and I'm going to juxtapose, you look at the drug trade, and you look at, because again, that's another genocide. And you look at and I'm going to use the term, not but the so-called slave trade, because that's why when I say Islam, because again, the United States government throws black men, the RICO, they putting all these dudes, three strikes laws. Yeah, the evil killer, war on drugs. But black dudes don't have, cocoa plantations in Colombia. Who are the biggest? What, Meech, Craig Pettis, a couple, Rick Ross? They wasn't cartel level. You understand what I'm saying? So I really look at these guys no different than a Jaja of a Pobo, of a Sariki Williams Abbas. Like you said, they were getting trinkets. It's no different than these guys who would willingly give a mother poison so she can get high. It's the same mentality of a person who snatches a baby from a mother so he can win favors with the Dutch, or win favor with the Portuguese, or win favor with the British. And it's interesting you talk about how they took them to fight for the Dutch, the Ashanti warriors, because eventually it comes back full circle when you look at the West Africa Frontier Force, right? So what does the West Africa Frontier Force consist of? Almost all African soldiers, and they are the literal sword for the most part that's used to colonize all of West Africa, and they were also sent to fight in World War I.
Do you know for who? Who did they fight for in World War One?
The British, I believe they fought for the British in the first. Let me pull them up. Let
Yeah,
me
that
tell
sounds
you.
about right.
Yeah, West Africa. Shoot, spelled that wrong. Frontier Force, World War I. They fought for
So
the
let
British,
me
I
let me
know. Yeah, go
let
ahead,
me
brother.
just go back on something that you said, right? And I'm gonna
Yeah.
kind of tie it into the psyche of Black people globally, right? You mentioned the war on drugs, how, besides a few that were doing it, the Black man wasn't really at the top, right?
Aha. Yes.
So now the Colombians and the Mexicans now are always running it at the top, and then the Black man tends to be the lower level, all the way down to the street level dealer. But what is that? That is a drug trade, but the Black man gets the shit end of the stick. So a lot of times when we have these business deals, these trade deals with non-Black people, we tend to always be, the at the lower end of the totem pole. You take it to almost any sort of business where we're doing global business, we tend not to be the big willies. You understand what I'm saying? And that dynamic has to change. It literally has to change, but we have to start being seen as you know, the people who are creating, refining, supplying, transporting, like really literally controlling all parts of the production chain down to retail. You understand what I'm saying? And have the other people start being the lower on the totem pole. But I just wanted to point that out, that a lot of times when we as Black people globally, and I'm not a Pan African, but it's very
I mean, you just
obvious.
said tonight is your brothers. I was assuming you were.
No, no, hell no. I'm very far from Pan African. I think honestly that Pan Africanism, um, well, not certain types of Pan Africanism, right? It strips the beauty of certain African groups, and it tries to say, well, we're all the same, we're all African. No, Africans are very diverse. Black people are very diverse, and I think when you just try to lump us all in as black, um, you start to erase the the individuality and the beauty of some of these nations. Like when you think of the Edo people from Benin City, right? Or is it Benin City? It's Edo State in Benin City. If you
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Google Edo
You're
people,
right.
right?
You're right.
The culture, bro, like that shit is crazy. Have you ever? I'm sure you're familiar with that. But it's beautiful, and that is totally different from let's say uh,
Somali or
Somali
Tanzanian.
culture,
Yeah.
or any other West African culture. It's different. And I say, look, let people be who they are. They're their group, they're their people. I was ear hustling, so I know what ethnic group you're from. And I like the fact that they're known as a peace loving people. I did a lot of
Which
research.
group? Which group did you hear? Which group? Let's see if you got it.
Isoko.
Okay. Now, did you see us on any manuals that we were with the Portuguese or any Europeans?
Absolutely not. They came from
Okay.
Benin, from
Yes.
Benin, right? Right
Yes,
from Benin.
we left Benin after the, because people don't know the Edo dynasty is they're kind of newcomers. Before them, they were the Ogisos, and there was a war. There was like a civil. At the very top, there was like a beef. I have a theory on it. My theory is actually that the Portuguese had a dude come in there and take over because, but I don't want to get to that's a whole nother video. I'll do that later. But there was a big beef, and a lot of people started to leave after the fall of the Ogiso, and a great source that so just people could see the before I get to that, West Africa Frontier Force, they were all over. They fought in World War One. They fought against the Germans. The French and the British used them. Then they were also used in World War Two. So you can see these are the battalions. They served in Burma and East Africa. They served in Burma. They fought in Burma. They had the Sierra Leone, the Gambia, the Nigerian regiment, the Ghanaians. So again, we've been cooning and buffooning, and then on the America side, you see the Buffalo Soldiers, right? So it's just crazy. But no, I was saying the Isoko people were part of a larger migration out of Edo because of the fall of the Ogiso, and so you have the Ishan people left, the Urobo left, the Ishakiri people left, and then they were, you know, the Portuguese actually took a Benin prince, I believe Ginua, I forgot if that's not his name, I can't remember, and made him in charge of the Ishakiri people, right? And so that's how the Ishakiri people were created. So there was a wave of migration, and some argue that that was the reason why they built the Benin moat, actually to stop that migration, to stop people from necessarily leaving, because people were just pissed off with the Edo. But also, it's on the record that for the most part, the Oba of Benin, if it wasn't for a few trinkles, not to excuse it, but I believe he also largely did not partake in the slave trade. I don't know if your research has told you that.
On the Benin Kingdom, like my homies from like one of my closest buddies is a Nigerian dude from Edo State. Well, from Benin City, right? So he puts me onto all of this stuff. He's my teacher. I actually interviewed him, and the title of the video is "Did Africans Sell Other Africans?" Nigerian version, right? And this dude is he's a genius in his field, but he's also a cool ass dude. So when I was studying about the Isoko people, I'm like, shit, I don't try to steer it anyway, right? I just want to, I start light. I start with a wiki page and then I start looking for names and then I research these names and I'm like, yo, everything that I'm seeing about the Isoko people is that they're a peace loving people. Yeah, there's some shit that's going on now, right? And that's with every human group. You're going to have, new fuck shit that's going on, excuse my language. But traditionally, they've been peaceful. So I'm like, damn, I liked it because this is what I use. This kind of information is what I use to people that try to tell me that I'm equal parts slave, enslaved as enslaver. And I said, no, 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 no. Because to say that means that you're giving equal weight to every single ethnic group in terms of slave trading in Africa. And it just wasn't like that. You had the big boys, the larger empires and kingdoms that were feasting on the smaller kingdoms. You understand what I'm saying? And this Isoko thing is proof of that. There's literally nothing. I scoured the internet. I couldn't find it. Then I hit up my man. I said, yo, tell me about the Isoko people, right? And he said, well, they're kind of a mixed group. They're a small group, peaceful, and you won't find a lot of information about them online. He sent me that on WhatsApp.
Well, what's interesting is that, because I'm glad you mentioned that, and I think that's part of the thing that's missing in the conversations a lot of times, is that there's a key point. You said the larger so-called kingdoms, and I think what transpired, because all right, let me that. Hold on, somebody's calling me. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that. So here's the thing. I want to share this. It's a great book. You would like it, by the way, because I know you're really into. And I'm not against. I mean, I work, I bust my ass, I do business, I have businesses and all that stuff. But I'm not a fan of the so-called capitalism thing. That's just me. I don't. I'm not a fan of it. But I'm gonna find this book for you. I think you would really like the book. Let me show you.
Hey, while you're looking that up, I have my notes here that I was going to use in our debate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go
Um,
ahead, go ahead. I mean, I want
it
to
said King Pericule. I think he was exiled in London, and then he came back a Christian or something like that. I think he's a Ejon man. Is George Orugubiji or some Pepple? Yeah, it's another Pepple. Yeah, so
Yeah, the
they
Pebble.
yeah, they went, he was exiled in London and then came back a Christian, because I remember some people talking about that guy, saying that he was a Christian. So it's in that ethnic group, that line, that they just have that European uh religion in there, and I see where it was introduced.
And this is why when you talk to, and this is the book. I don't know if you can see my screen. As you can see, it's quite expensive, and it's out of stock. Let me see if the other Amazon link. Um, Let me check this one. Let me see if this is. No, wait, no, that was the other one. Yeah. Let me see this one. Oh well, you can see $103. It's quite expensive. I should have put it on PDF when I had the book, but I'm sure you can get it at the library. Um, but this book really, let me see if I can get a review on it from Google Books or something.
Hey,
Um,
could you read me the title, because I'm on my phone and it's very
okay,
small.
okay. Oh, I'll zoom in. That's what I'll do so you can see it. Let me zoom in. Tell me if you can see it. Is it better now? Is it better?
Yeah, I can read it. I can read it. Yeah.
Okay, yes. So this book right here, um, one of the best books I've read. It's called The Entrepreneur's Culture Hero by Bernard Belasco. And he touches on, of course, the transition that was happening. And that's where I learned about the transition um, with what happened in Benin with the Ogiso. And that's where I learned that Olokun, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the Orishas and that whole thing. They talk, there's some that who venerate Olokun. But Olokun comes from that nexus of where Africans start abandoning the earth goddess and start turning to the water goddess, because the water goddess is the source of wealth. The maritime trade is the source of income now. And so, there's a whole Yoruba thing about how they had to literally bring Olokun to heel, because Olokun was like Get Rich or Die Trying 50 Cent's album. It literally took over. Like everybody dropped every other deity and was like, "Yo, we rocking with Olokun." So they had to figure out ways and come up with proverbs. So there's this one where like Olokun challenged Oduduwa to a competition and lost, because Olokun was like, "Oh, I can wear the fanciest clothes," and Oduduwa was like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna just be a chameleon." So every time Olokun would change into an outfit, the chameleon would just mimic whatever Olokun had, and he realized he couldn't defeat, Oduduwa, his father, blah blah blah. And then there was also that distinction where in Benin and the south part of Nigeria, Olokun is male, whereas within the Yoruba side, Olokun is actually in some ways seen as a female energy. Largely, when you go to the Yoruba land, the women run the marketplace. So this great book, the reason why I said all that was that transition. Like I said, remember they brought in these billions, if not trillions, of cowrie shells to West Africa. So what occurred? The reason why you see like the Isoko and the Urobo, um, and you see Because when they say the evil soul slaves, it was the Arochuku specifically that were selling slaves. They were doing some fucking dastardly shit, what they were doing. But the reason why you don't see um, those ethnic groups or tribes engage is because their system was still largely based on the elder system. And
Mm,
this book points that out. You didn't have They didn't create this strict social hierarchies. You didn't have a king, right? Like we don't have a word for king. Like modern day people will tell you, oh, in Urobo the word for king is Ovia. No, Ovia doesn't mean king, right? Or the Igbos don't, like there is no king. They say Izzy or Obi or Obi, however you pronounce it. That's not king, right? So a lot of times, even language we use, what we do is we take our language to describe what we hear in English, and we assume we've always had it, and that's not the case. So the transition from the Ogiso to the Oba dynasty caused a lot of, like again, the Isoko left Benin, the Urobo left, the Isha left. Many people got the hell out because of that. Because now you create this hierarchy. Now, when you create this hierarchy, you need soldiers, right? Like some Nigerians, like, oh, we need military, military, military. Yes, you got to protect yourselves, but it causes an issue. So you create this soldier, you create this hierarchy, there's this social hierarchy class. Whereas before, you know, I can farm on my land. We would come together communally, take care of any issues as a defense. The elders would be the ones who would provide the wisdom. They held power, but they were the managers of power. I had a video, and I'll stop there and let you go ahead. Hey, BB, glad that you're in the chat. Hope you can stay with us because me and Nakmeezy are building. Um, you know, on an earlier video, me and Jose, we did a video on, we had an article on Bambara culture in Mali, and you could see this was an anthropologist who studied them in the 1940s, I believe, and so they were still somewhat excluded from modern things, and they were observing how the Bambara child was raised, and again, you see a clear difference in terms of they said a great point. They said that power the elders are not in charge of power. They're only custodial managers of power. The power belongs to the ancestors. And their first and number one primary duty is to do what is best, not for themselves, but for the entire group. So anyone who's engaging in the act of slave trading has abandoned their culture. And anyone who supports that has abandoned their culture. So I'll stop there.
no, I agree. And shout out to BB Rodriguez. This was supposed to be a precursor to a debate. But when you actually listen to people, right, and you're not looking to score points, but you're actually looking to gain information, you start to see that the truth, it can't really be debated, right? It's just, it is what it is, like I said, these conversations have to be had, in the spirit of internal customer service, in the spirit of just really kind of being what do you call it, like empathetic to specific situations and stuff like that. But so far, it's been a great build. So BB, shout out to you. You came in at a good time. You can watch the replay. It almost got a little spicy because of a choice of words. But we don't want to play semantics with these conversations. So yeah,
It's
like I said,
versus the Bronx. You know how we get, man. You know how I get. Whenever
yeah, I
Brooklyn,
know y'all dusty ass Bronx dudes.
listen, we run into each other in the streets. Everything I tell people all the time. Look, if you come to New York, Brooklyn run it because y'all got the most people. But Brooklyn dudes will tell you we don't rock with the Bronx. They'll tell you
Nah,
that hands down. They're like, nah, we run the city, but the Bronx dudes leave them alone.
yo, put it like this. Before I moved back to Brooklyn, I went to high school in the Bronx at a certain point. I went to Roosevelt, and then I got kicked out, and I went to Bronx Outreach. Right. When I would go back to visit my family in Brooklyn, I used to listen to a tape. It's a cassette by a rapper called named Tim Dog. He made a song called F Compton. He had a
Yes,
song
yes,
called
I remember Tim Dog.
I'm a Bronx N word. I'm a Bronx N word. I would play that on the 4 train from Burnside all the way, listen to the album all the way down to Brooklyn Bridge, just hyping myself up to go into Brooklyn because I knew there was no love between Brooklyn and the Bronx. But that shit spans back since the beginning of NYC time. But yo, on some other shit, do you train? I heard you mention teeps and all of this. You train?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do. My first love was boxing, so I did boxing. I was at um Morris Park Boxing Gym. My first. Well, yeah,
Wait, hold on. Morris Park, is that by 180th?
not too far from 180th. Yeah, so it's right there on you got White Plains Road, 3922 buses. So it's right there. So you're
So you
like
would take the
literally
train at 180th and get off and bust a left, right?
no, once you get off at 180th, you make the left, you walk under
The
the
trestle.
crosswalks, the expressway, and you can take that bus that'll take you straight there. So Morris Park Boxing Gym, right there. And so I started boxing. My first trainer was actually one of my first trainers was Louis Resto. He's infamous because he cheated in the fight, the Billy Collins fight, and Billy ended up committing suicide.
Oh yeah,
Resto's a
yeah.
good dude. Yeah, that was my first trainer. And ironically, Resto used to talk to me about kickboxing. I was like, whatever, I don't care about kick. I like boxing. And so, I did boxing. And then at that time, the UFC was really like taking hold. Like this was around the time of like Randy the Natural Couture, Chris Lieben, Chuck Liddell, Rich Franklin, Matt Hughes, Matt Serra, all these guys, these names I'm thinking of. Um, so I'm like, yo, what is this? I'm watching it, and my boy, because I had seen a little bit of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Like I learned about like the guard, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like I was like, oh, okay, this seems cool, but I'm not trying to lay on the ground. And my boy, uh, I hung out with him one day, and he like put me in some moves like anaconda choke, and I was like, yo, man, this is like, I don't ever want to run into one of these people. And yeah, I jab him up and I give him like a 1-2, and the next thing I know, I'm on the floor and he's choking me out. I got to figure something out. Because when I was younger in Nigeria, coming back from the States, we slap boxing, we shooting the hands. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I go to Nigeria and I fought a couple of kids and I won most of them. I did lose, you know what I'm saying? And the fights I lost is because them dudes was great fucking wrestlers. So they would grab me up and throw me and just start wailing on me. And I'm like, yo, get off me, that's gay. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, that's gay. We shooting the hands, right? And so I'm like, nah, I remembered those ass whoopers I got when these dudes would grab me. So I said, you know what? I got to learn something here. So I went and transitioned to judo. So I did judo for a while, and that I fell in love with that. And now for the last 2 years now, I've been doing Muay Thai because
Where you
wanted to
training more?
expand things. My actual gym closed down, so I'm in a whole nother gym. I don't want to say because people online, so I'm in a whole nother gym though. But um, yeah, no,
Is
it's
it a black
beautiful.
man training or Puerto Rican? Like what? Is
All
it in the
my
BX?
I'm not gonna say because then people will be able to zero in. Like I said, I
Well,
don't want. Yeah,
email me because
yeah,
you
yeah. I
speak
got
with
your
the black
phone.
man. I
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
know your trainer, or I've probably trained there. Or there's a gym under the 4 train. It's a boxing gym. I don't know if it's World. It's some fucking boxing gym between, not Kingsbridge. I
You
don't know
mean
if it's
John's boxing gym?
John's boxing gym. I
Well,
used to.
actually, they've moved. John's is now at Haviland. They've
Oh, but
moved.
when it
John's.
was
Yeah,
by,
when you was there,
um,
because John's used to be over by. Funny enough, John's was over by Third Avenue. Then they moved to where you said they moved over to
right.
Kingsbridge. Now they moved back closer to like uh the Deegan Haviland, like by Castle Hill area. They've moved actually. Funny
Oh,
enough.
okay.
Yeah.
See, I used to officiate, well, not, I used to judge Thai boxing fights in that gym. This is about 7 years ago. And I used to get paid little, whatever, whatever, and then take the train all the way back to Brooklyn at like 2 o'clock in the morning. But
So
nah,
you
that's what's up,
train
man.
Muay Thai? You train Muay Thai?
Yeah, I trained Muay Thai. I fought Muay Thai in New York City. I'll tell you what gym. I used to train at Satan Gym in Astoria. I trained at the Watt Gym. I don't know if you ever heard of Crew Phil Nurse. He's a black dude from
Oh man,
England.
Phil Nurse is Phil Nurse is a legend, bro.
Yeah, I should. Matter of fact, my
I
trainer.
steal all his shit. I
Yo,
watched Phil Nurse the other day, and I just was implementing, how to step back with the jab, which sets up the two kicks. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So he taught me all of that shit. My original trainer said, "Yo, for your style, for my style," he said I should go train with Phil, and I trained with Phil when he was in Soho. Now he's like below Canal Street, but every gym in the city, 5 points, the Watt. I almost fought in the nationals for the Watt, but I got knocked out in sparring, getting prepared for the nationals. So I'm like, man, f this, because I was sparring at a very low weight because they were trying to, make me fight at 160. So I did that. But yeah, man, if it's Muay Thai and it's New York City and it's over, if they've been in the game for more than 10 years, I know them or they know me. Facts.
Yeah, no, I mean, if it's Muay Thai, like I said, I'm a newcomer in it. I definitely decided to do Muay Thai now. I fell in love with the elbows. I think it allows me to see, because for me, like I said, man, and I know we're segueing away from our topic, but I think one of the problems I have with people in general is everybody gets territorial and tribal in that sense, right? Like some of the strongest dudes I've ever rolled with are wrestlers. And I love, just their entry, how their power side, how to get the entry. And I'm like, yo, this is beautiful. It's not the same as a so-called boxing stance. It's a lot lower, but I can incorporate that, right? I can at least use that to fake the person as if I might shoot in, and then boom, I'll hit them with a straight left, or I'll come up with an uppercut or a hook, right? I can swap. And I think the problem people have is like they don't think of making it fluid. So it's like, if I'm getting an underhook, I can use that to go straight in with my hips, lower my base, and boom, I got to throw. Now, if I can't get the underhook, or if I can't get the throw, I've off balanced you. Whoa, well, guess what? Now I got my knees because I have the underhook. I can place that other hand and frame on your neck. Now I got two knees coming at your face. You get what I'm saying? Like, I just don't know why people don't think fluid to mix things. Like, everybody just gets very territorial. It's just crazy, I think. And I think
That's
they miss
human
out.
nature to be tribalistic. So the Muay Thai guys don't rock with the Sanda guys. The Shua Jiao guys, which is Kung Fu wrestling, don't rock with certain Wing Chun dudes. It's all tribalism, and everybody thinks that this shit is the best. But when you incorporate, or when if you can at least borrow what's good from a style, and you could take it outside of martial arts, just in life, you can practice it, and you can basically enhance your own shit. I'm a trainer. I don't teach midgets how to high kick. You understand what I'm saying? I tailor my training for your body type. As a matter of fact, I got a team of fighters in Ghana. So when I say I be doing this shit for real, I do it for real. But look, I don't want to bore the audience, but this is good. We're getting a rapport. When I come back to New York, we should link up. Matter of
No,
fact, we should
definitely.
spar. We should spar. I'll mop the floor with you, and then I'll
I'm fine.
I'll buy you a
I've
beef
gotten my
patty
ass
in
beat.
Malta, India.
Listen, I've lost to some of the best. It's okay. It's a learning lesson. I don't look at life anymore in that lens of wins and losses anymore. Like I tell people all the time, people say, "Man, the African was defeated," and I say, "Hey, listen, look, are you telling me that you know, I can beat Razor Ruddock? No, I
Yeah,
can't beat Donovan Razor Ruddock, but he lost to Mike Tyson. Razor Ruddock will beat the living crap. I would shit my pants and cry. That's how strong that dude is. He's not a little dude. Mike Tyson just happens to be the better fighter. Does that mean he's less of a man? No. Sometimes you
not at
fight, you
all.
win, you lose, and you figure out where you could have gotten better. But I think this conversation didn't derail. It did because you've made some statements in the past, and some people, if they were sensitive, they would feel offended. You
Hmm.
said that the African American or the Africans in America, that would be the Caribbeans, the South Americans, are the remix that are better than the original. And to a certain degree, I can actually have no issue with that statement in the sense of what we just discussed to say that mixing things and creating that fluidity, right? And like I was saying, a person I can use, in Muay Thai, the plum that can also turn into a throw, right? I can turn that into an uchimata. Just thinking about it. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I'm listening. I'm just P Diddy, and I'm just like, yeah, yeah. I'm feeling what you're saying. I understand.
So when I look at um, the combination, like there's a great book called Africanisms in America, and a lot of times, other than certain pockets like the Gullah Geechee, like no one, when you watch old videos of the Gullah Geechee, they're pretty much speaking pidgin English. Like if you understand pidgin English, you understand Gullah Geechee. Like I saw documentaries when I was in college about the Gullah. I'm like, yo, that's pidgin English. I understood everything they were saying, right? They were speaking pretty much pidgin English. And so, other than them and a few pockets here and there, African American culture actually derives from the Congo. Not even though there were a lot of West Africans that came, like I said, you had like the Igbo landing and the Gullah Geechee, but the general culture is actually Congo derived. It's not West African per se, and it just again shows that beautiful mixture of Congolese people combining with West African people to create this thing, right? So with that, you get your jazz, you get your soul, you get your blues, you get your R&B, you get all of these things. Then I can look at the Americas. Cuba is holy smokes, right? I believe the rumba drum is one of the few African drums that wasn't created. It is the African drum that wasn't made in Africa. It was actually made in Cuba by Africans who were taken there, right? And you see there's a famous Cuban babalawo, Adeshina, right, in the early 1800s, who kidnapped, right, swallowed his or his the thing for his orishas, and when he got to Cuba, unfortunately, he defecated. But that's what kept him alive: is Ifa beads. He was able to use that and make himself successful in Cuba. So you can look at Celia Cruz. You can look at just the music that comes out of Cuba is just phenomenal. You look at Chano Pozo. You look at what's this other gentleman's name that played with Dizzy Gillespie? Can't remember his name. You look at Puerto Rico, right? Like as a kid, I learned about the coqui. Of course, Big Pun has it in that song, right? He had it in that great song that he had, right? I learned about the frogs. So as an African kid who I'm a so-called tether, according to Rick and them, I'm hearing all this salsa and merengue. Those drums, those are African drums. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that sounds just like robo music. Sounds just like Isoko music. I'm hearing the 3/2 claves. I'm hearing the 2/3 claves. You look at Jamaica, Trinidad. So let's not talk about Brazil, right? In Colombia, there's a part of Colombia, Barranquilla. They are in love with Fela. They're in love with Prince Nico. You play Prince Nico, you play Fela Kuti, they will, you know, invite you to the house, feed you dinner. I mean, they won't let you touch the women, which is understandable, but they'll feed you. You get what I'm saying? And it just shows, like you said, unfortunately, through that problem that existed, um, what did BB write? No, they don't. All the Carolinas are mostly Sierra Leone, Mende, Temne people. Yeah, BB. No, what I'm saying is that if you listen to Gullah Geechee, you hear Pidgin English, and in Sierra Leone, that's pretty much Pidgin. I can understand a Sierra Leonean when they're speaking Pidgin English. The same thing with a Liberian. But I'm saying all that to say, Nakmeezy, that there is some truth to what you're saying, and the fight that I think that and Africans aren't doing that is I think more Africans should be more like Fela Kuti, because Fela is an interesting guy because Fela, he takes the high life that is being played in West Africa, which has a lot of soca, right? Has a lot of calypso. A lot of people don't know that. He takes that high life and says, okay, I like jazz. He loves Miles Davis. He loves John Coltrane. He loves all these guys. combines jazz. Um, he listens to funk, and he combines this into this new thing called Afrobeat. And Afrobeat is able to stand with the funk of the world, with the jazz of the world, with with all of it. Because he's not being this biased African to look down. He's like, no, these are my brothers. And what my brothers and sisters created, I can take, cross pollinate it. Now we can become even stronger. So I'll end it with saying, you said that the African around the world globally, when you look at the drug trade to the slave trade, these are all genocides. The black guy's there's the errand boy, he's the pissant. And I think what's missing is we don't work collectively and we don't understand cross fertilization. I'll yield the mic to you.
No, I appreciate a lot of stuff that you said. Um, yeah, look, what I will say though is that certain groups have developed their own cultures, their own musics, their own food, which is developed under duress if they are children of the slave trade, and it's tailored to their situations, right? So yeah, there's a little bit of Africa in it, absolutely. You can't deny that, but it turns into something totally different, right? So when you talk about calypso, that I think that's maybe Trinidadian or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
Trinidad.
Trinidadian. So we can't say that it's African. There's roots in it that come from Africa. We black people worldwide have a rhythm, right? We have a rhythm that cannot be denied. We have a spirit that cannot be denied. We have that spiciness that can't be denied, right? So there are things that tie us together, but the individuality based on, your individual circumstances, that becomes your culture. You understand what I'm saying? So while we are connected, I wouldn't swagger jack um somebody else's culture and say, yeah, well that's mine because they're black. You know what I'm saying? And I think some Africans tend to say, well, since black Americans came from Africa originally, that everything that they do is African. No, that shit, like the blues, was about the blues, right? You fucked up, you broke, your homie smashing your chick, you want to kill him, but you don't want to go to jail.
Not the girl, not my chick.
Yeah, you see, so it's connected, but at the same time, it's for those people. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
no,
So I
I'm
don't
not
want.
saying the culturally appropriated. No, what I'm
No, I
saying
know,
though
I
is
know what
that
you're saying. I'm just
yeah,
saying, like, everyone has their own shit. So when I say the Black American, right, is the remix song that ends up being better than the original, and the Western Central African being the original. Obviously, these are shots, right? It's a shot. It's a shot at the anti-Black American African, and sometimes it could be a shot at the anti-Black American Caribbean. So when I say these things, they're said in jest with they're also dipped in truth. So when I say we're, better than the original, obviously I'm fucking around, but my ethnic group is the richest, most educated, most popular worldwide. Now my challenge to my ethnic group is always, why are we the most popular worldwide? When are we going to say, let's stop being the world's entertainers and world's sports thing, sports icons, and go back to being black excellence, true black excellence, not black mediocrity that's being promoted as black excellence. So I don't rest on my laurels. I always try to look forward and say, all right, how could we be better? How could we be better? Because that's what every other ethnic group in the world does. Black people, we tend to live in the past, right? A lot of Africans say, yeah, this kingdom was that. Okay, that's cool. But what have you done for me lately? Like Janet Jackson said, yeah, we had Black Wall Street. You rarely hear me talk about Black Wall Street unless it's to say stop dick riding what happened in Black Wall Street and create another one. That's my point.
no. I mean, and like I said, ideologically, that's where I think we differ. But I wouldn't say there's a right or wrong, right? And so for me, I don't. Thank you, Abby. I appreciate you saying that this is a great conversation. No, listen, the thing with Nakmeezy, right? I look, I know that Nakmeezy is a very intelligent guy, and I understand where he comes from. Nakmeezy has to be, in many aspects, very defensive because Africans, even when they deal with me, are arrogant and think they know it all, right? Like here in the U.S., I've been around African. Yo, you African? I've had people that, if you looked at me, you wouldn't think I'm African. I'm dark skinned, right? My brother, because my mother's light skinned. My brother's very light skinned. My two brothers are light skinned. We don't look the same. You would think my brother's a Dominican guy. Like if he had curls, like if he curled his hair, you would think, he's Dominican. Um, so my point is when I say Knock is defensive in the sense that he has to take an approach where it's like, no, you're not going to come here and look down on me and be arrogant to me and say, oh, you Africans, Americans don't have culture. You guys all going to jail and we take the education. And it's like, I tell them and they don't like me. Like I'm not invited to a lot of their chats. They don't want me on their platforms. They don't, right? Because um, when I tell them, I say, okay, so you're saying that the African American is lazy, blah blah blah, or the girls in this. I said, well, currently, not culturally, but currently, you go to the slums. You've been to Ghana. You go to the hood, um, in Nigeria. You see 15-year-old girls, 16-year-old girls with babies. That ain't African culture. What's going on there? You see them young boys. You was in Accra. There's a part of Accra you don't want to walk through. Nima, Boogie Down Nima. I'm sure they may have told you about that. It's a very notorious hood over there in Nima. You understand what I'm saying?
You
And,
know where I
and
went? Motherfucking
okay,
Nima.
you said what?
I was in Nima. I was in Nima and I was in Bukom. I
Well,
was in the hood.
listen, yeah, see, and that's why I respect you in the sense that you went through there. You didn't go and chill with the rich folks talking about you went to Ghana, and you pretty much went to Atlanta. You know what I'm saying in Ghana, um, but um, you know I understand why you have to take that approach because they'll look down and you've been to the hoods and you see like yo, you got dudes over there smoking, pulling guns, doing all kind of reckless stuff the same way they do over here. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna be one to look and say, oh well, the African American. No, that's silly. But again, the psychology of an African, people have to understand the psychology of the Africans, especially that get to come over here. They're very conservative and whitewashed. Most of the Africans, I'll give you an example. I was in Nigeria recently, and BB, Nigerians don't exist. I'm not a Nigerian. Stop saying you Nigerians. I'm against the state. I hate when you guys do that. Don't blame all Niger. I don't care if Nigeria, like, if Nigeria disappeared tomorrow, great. I'm Isoko first. Nigeria doesn't mean anything. Nigeria is British real estate. But hold on, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. So but when you encounter these Nigerians and they're talking this garbage to you, I understand why you have to take the approach you take, right? Because they often take an arrogant approach. Oh, you don't know the culture, Nakmeezy. You can't tell us about being African. And half the time they don't even read. These are just pseudo ADOS who go to church every Sunday or they go to mosque and they're just waiting for Jesus to come, right? So, I was saying the example of this brilliant brother in Nigeria. He went for an interview at the embassy. I mean, this dude is a freaking brilliant dude, right? And this dude, like, he was putting together all kind of electrical engineering stuff. So he goes to the interview. Now, guess what, Nakmeezy? They give his fiance, which is his wife now, they gave her the visa. You think they gave him the visa? You still there, Nakmeezy?
I hope they did.
Hell no. And the dude wanted to cry, right? Like he was so distraught by it. He's like, yo, I did everything right. I told the woman this. And I told him, I said, look, So who interviewed you? He said, it was a white lady. I said, let me tell you something. I'm a U.S. citizen. You think the embassy would hire a person like me to interview? Because I would let all the smart Nigerians go. All the ones that ain't gonna be cool, I'll let them go. I said, but who do you think they put there? So guess who they're gonna allow? They're gonna allow the women, of course, because the women ain't gonna do nothing but just come here work. They're not gonna fight. They just come here work, send money back home, and eventually, if they follow the American system, they'll divest and swirl. They're not gonna let a guy like you come. They're gonna let the old man, or they're gonna let the rich coon come in, and that's done by design. You understand what I'm saying? So that's done by design. So many of the Nigerians you guys encounter in the US, their family got money, they're rich. I'm gonna call him out now. To Niger. He lives in the estate. He hasn't been in the streets in Nigeria. He don't walk through the hood. And I'm not saying like I'm the toughest guy, like I'm some King Kong. But when I'm in Nigeria, I'm not living rich and I have money, whatever, but I'm not there to stun on people and live I'm not there to do that. These guys live in gated communities and estates and prisons, as I like to call it. They can't even walk through the streets. They can't. Many of these guys. So when you see them, this is, what you encounter. So like I said, I understand where you take the shots at them and where you're defensive. I totally get it. But like
You
I'll
see
tell
what
you,
my
yeah,
shit
go ahead.
is edutainment, right? I'll throw a shot and hope someone bites on it, right? So that we can have a deeper discussion because I don't speak anything that I can't back up historically. I tend not to debate feelings or perspectives. I'd rather just debate the actual facts. And with that, like I make thumbnails that are wild disrespectful, right? Just to get people to watch. My trailers for my shows. I had one. I put coconuts and all kind of shit. I had these Africans dancing around in their underwear. Yeah, come
Man,
to
you
the
was one of
street.
those. Was you one of them Hebrew Israelites?
Never. Those dudes, I cooked them. I cooked them early.
Nah, I
I
never
don't fuck
stayed. I
with
stayed
Hebrew.
away from those guys, man. Those guys was crazy, man.
Yeah, I
They
don't
was
deal
some
with them
crazy
anymore
dudes.
because I'm not gonna waste my time with them. But so I do the shit to get you thinking, right? You get there, okay. You want to hear who's not easy gonna yell at this time, right? Who's gonna get the smoke? That's what we like. We like edutainment, right? The monotone finger waving and da 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 da. That shit is boring. And to get to our people, you gotta spice it up. So I'll give you the edutainment, the education, but there's going to be an element of sarcasm. It's gonna be funny, or at least I'm trying to make it funny. And it's gonna be spicy. So that's what I do, right? But I want to talk about Nima and Bukom and why I went there. I didn't want to go on some,
Hold on, brother. Somebody's asking what's your channel in the chat. I don't know if you're able to type. If you could type it in
nah,
for
it's
them to
not
see it.
easy. It's Nakmeezy, all caps, no cap. So
Okay,
my
please
name is
type it
my
in.
channel.
Yeah, his name is his channel. Brother Abby, type it in.
And you're gonna be triggered, you know what I'm saying? But understand why I do this stuff. I like debating, I like getting a little spicy, but whatever. So look, Nima and Bukom. I was told literally on the plane by an Ashanti, don't go to Bukom. Those people are dangerous and they're dirty. I was told this by another Ghanaian. I went there. First person I met tried to get me, on he tried to scam me. First dude, a Rasta, on some yo brother, welcome back shit. But I'm from Brooklyn, bro. Like you're not gonna fucking scam me. We invented scam. But then when I left him and I went to Bukom, and you walk through the hood in the daytime, and there's ice grills and stairs. Once you say, "Hey, how you doing?" It turns into the biggest smile ever. Then it's, "Yo, what do you need? How can I help you?" Blah blah blah. It's how you carry yourself in these hoods. I've walked in Bukom at night for Dolo. I've walked in Osu for Dolo. I was video chatting with my wife, and there was literally no lights. So I'm walking. I felt good. Obviously, my head's gonna be on a swivel, and it got a little spicy because there was a couple of drunk Ghanaian dudes that I had to like put some bass in my voice with them and say, yo, get away from me, stop following me, like you know what I'm saying. But that's light work. I'm not afraid of black people. As crazy as that might sound to people, I'm not afraid of black people because I know what buttons to push, what buttons not to push, how far to go, how far not to go, when to pull back, when to separate the conversation, when to put that wild Negro under my wing to give him guidance. And with my 48 years of life, that comes from just experience. Nima, that is like what Brownsville and East New York was back in the day. Now it's gentrified, but Nima is a place. It's almost like a no-go zone. Nima is worse than Bukom. And who I met in Nima, actually, he brought me to Nima. It was a guy that I bought a big ass block of cheese to, because his homie used to cut my hair here in Holland. He said, "Yo, can you take this cheese to my wife? My homie's gonna meet you. He's from New York." This dude pulls up in a Range Rover. He got kicked out of New York, deported because of some old fraud shit, right? And he took me to Nima. Gucci. I was Gucci, but the shit was hood. And I don't want to say, but I believe that most of the people out there were Muslim. It almost seemed like it was like a house neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? But I felt good. And the whole point is that I went out there and I mixed among the people, which is why I don't have smoke for continental Africans on the continent. People mistake what I say when I'm getting at the government and saying, "Yo, y'all shitting in the streets, y'all shitting in the streets." Yeah, okay, those are little jabs, but you know what I'm saying. When are people gonna say enough is enough? You know what I'm saying? But when I go to Nigeria, because I just spoke to my man, and he said I could stay with him or whatever, whatever. But I don't really want to. I always like to go by myself, and he's the one who told me to go to Ghana first. Don't come to Benin City. He said shit is crazy right there,
Yeah,
right now.
Benin's a little reckless.
What happened?
No, I said Benin's a little bit reckless right now. But them boys are
Yeah,
Benin.
and from 2 years ago though, he was like, "Yo, for your first trip to Africa, go to Ghana, bro. Don't come to Benin City. Don't." He's like, "You fuck around, you come to Benin City, you won't want to come back to the continent."
Which is
So I
which is
might,
funny that every Nigerian says that. Like I always tell people the same thing too. I'm like, yo, nah, go to Ghana, go to Liberia first, just see what it is, then come to Nigeria, because Ghana and those other places, like you said, you get the fake shit with the whole my brother stuff, but generally speaking, they're a little bit. Nigerians are like New Yorkers, especially people from Lagos. Like
right,
New York, they don't give a f. You know what I'm
they'll
saying?
stun
It could
on
be
you
Bill
like,
Gates.
"Fuck is
Yeah,
you?"
they don't care. Like. So that's how, and so a lot of times, a Nigerian will run into you, and people are like, yo, them Nigerians is like, they mean well. It's like people who don't know New Yorkers, right? Like when I lived in the South for a few years, right? Alabama, Roll Tide, and people like, oh, New York, you're so rude. I'm like, nah, actually, you guys are rude. We're not rude. We just kind of know each other. You know what I'm saying? Like in traffic for the most part. Like, when have you ever heard like real road rage? Like that's rare in New York. Like, yo, dude, just pull out and started blasting. It got to be serious beef over money, or you really disrespected and violated. 9 out of 10, even if it got like a quick fist fight, dudes to get back in their car and go. Like, yo, f you, your mother, and you honk your horn. You can't do that out of New York. Alabama, you honk your horn and say f you. A dude to pull out and start blasting because they got really
Don't go
thin
to
skin.
Florida. Don't
Oh,
go to Florida.
Florida. Florida's a whole nother swampland. You know what I'm saying? But it's they got real thin skin outside New York. In New York, it's like, yo, f you, and we keep it moving. And that's kind of how like Nigerians are, like very thick skin. You know, so yeah, it's just yeah. He gave you good advice, I think.
Yeah, I'm still gonna go. I might go before I go back to New York. Or I'm not gonna move back to New York. I'm gonna fly into New York and fly the fuck out a week after that. I'm just gonna shop for some clothes and then bounce. But just because I'm so close. The only problem that I have is that with an American passport, the visa is $160. You understand what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, bro. Like for some people it's 60, but for Americans it's 160. And then you have to like get someone to either vouch for you or some shit like that. They gotta write a letter. I'll figure it out, but that's
You don't
another
got no
problem.
you don't got no like. See, this is why again, you know, to the conversation about what West Africans owe. I could say, yo, my people didn't sell slaves, right? As best as the historical records show. But I don't take that approach. That's why I'm busting my butt as much as I can in the West because I want to see Africans in America come back to Africa, not on the Liberian tip, because that's a whole other conversation. I think what happened with Liberia, shout out to my Liberians, no beef with them, the American Liberians, because me and Kyle had it out about the same topic a while back. I would love to see, and I remember I told you this, remember, because I told you that I felt I was a tether, right? And I told you that, hey, look, within one generation, your kids will be pretty much Yoruba, right? I would love to get the opportunity to where I can get some land for African Americans to come back. And even if you can, come through where it's like, look, you know what? This part of Benin is African American spot, right? And you can come in, you got a community of African Americans. They've learned the local language. They're intermixing. It's not like they're separating. Like I think that was what went wrong with the Liberia project, as opposed to what Fela's family did. That's what went wrong. Not separating, but learning the language, learning the local customs, and saying, "Hey, look, we're our own ethnic group, we our own tribe, but we Africans, we're doing it this way." And I think that's a form of reparations until you have the governments that can perhaps create something. But again, these governments in Africa are all, as my mentor likes to say, European real estate. There's no, Nigeria's British real estate. I don't know if I've
Absolutely.
shown you the document that they gave us. The document that the British gave us clearly states to continue the Queen's Dominion. Now, mind you, the Nigerians who signed this document were lawyers. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if you're a lawyer, right? Are you a lawyer, if you don't mind me asking?
Nah, I'm not. I'm not a lawyer.
But if I give you a document that says, Nakmeezy, you are no longer my colony. You are free to continue my dominion. Sign right here.
Continue my dominion.
Let me pull it up. Go ahead and I want to hear your thoughts on it. Pull it up.
That's crazy. That's insane. But you know that 2 years ago, uh, Gambia, Ghana, and Nigeria recommitted to the Commonwealth. You know that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they recommitted to the Commonwealth. That's I'm like, I'm gonna go because I can. I'm gonna go on vacation. I never want to live in Nigeria. I never want to go and integrate and all. I'm very proud of who I am. I love who I am. What I think a community of Black Americans in Nigeria, I don't know if that would work because I think if you sprinkle or if you spread 10,000 Black Americans across the country, even 100,000, because it's huge. It's like pissing in the ocean, right? But once you have a community of Black Americans that are doing it properly, becoming successful, uh, there's going to be integration, but at the same time, culturally, there's going to be separation. There can be animosity. I'm not going to paint a picture like the Africans are going to kill us and all that other shit, but um, I don't want to be a part of no community like that. I like being special. You feel me? I like being the only Black American guy in the hood or whatever, whatever. Then you're not really a threat. You know what I'm saying? But once you start moving there in numbers, then you're gonna start seeing who are these people why he's dating my cousin. It'll come down to the fact that Black Americans would have to be their tribe there as well. And then it'd be ethnic group versus ethnic group once you start competing for resources, women, or business and money and all that other shit. But as far as your offer for reparations, that's more like an olive branch, and that's cool. That's real cool. You know what I'm saying? I personally, I wouldn't want anything like that. I'll just pass it on to the next person. But I like your thought process. If more Nigerians thought like or were vocal like you, because I'm sure there's Nigerians that feel this way. You know what I'm saying? My homie was like, "Yo, if you go there, you're gonna be good." He's like, "And no one's really gonna look down on you, especially not in
Well,
this
here's the
city."
thing, Nakmeezy. No, because here's the thing. Let's keep it real, right? You've been to Ghana. You go to any barbershop and hold on. Yeah,
His
sorry
top,
about that.
yeah,
Yeah, hello.
go on.
Yeah, so you go to any and in a few minutes, people in the chat, if not, is it okay with you? Would you like other people to chime in as we wrap
Oh,
up?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so I'll open up the chat line. But again, this was a brilliant build. This I hope this is to put it out there that even though we don't necessarily have to agree, like the brother said, he said a brilliant thing: internal customer service. I can be welcoming to him as an African American because at the end of the day, he's my family. This is my cousin. I'm his cousin. And so we need to treat each other like cousins. And that's how families should operate. You understand? I don't need to go to your house and put my feet on your glass and vice versa. But I can come and hug your family and be responsible and bring some gifts and you can come and visit me. And then over time, hey, cousin, look, man, we got this business we could do. Oh, yeah, let's do it, man. Everybody chips in. I don't cheat you. You don't cheat me. And that's, I think, how families should interact. So I hope this video is an example and a testament to that for people.
If Two Nigel was here, it'd be an argument already. He never lets people finish, and I know he's
Yeah, I don't
watching.
pay attention to him. I try not to call him because if you
He
call him, he's
tried to
like
bully people
Candyman.
with his voice.
Listen, if I call him, if I say his name too many times, he's like Candyman and he pops up and then he'll say that I'm not letting him in the chat. But and again, no beef with the brother. He's a good dude, but just ideologically, and I accused him and many other Africans on a recent panel. I said, "Yo, look, man, when the Africans like myself, Dr. Sabi, were like, we don't want to deal with the chemical people. You people, in your bid to modernize, in your bid to, so-called discard old ideas, were willing to sell your human capital."
Yo, bro, I spoke to him this morning on Kaizo's stream. Yo, I pulled up and your ass ran this morning.
Dude, there's work, right? People got work, people got bills, man. I'm
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to get
But
in
you
there for
called me out.
15
You said
minutes.
you said click the link. I said, all right, 5 minutes.
You didn't click
Then
it. I was
I
waiting. You
clicked it.
didn't click
Now
it.
I clicked it, and then I had to deal with Two Niger, right? And I told
Oh,
you I
you
was
and Tunisia went at it?
not really went at it, but we had a good conversation. And I told him I know about his group, and I broke down his kings, the Pepples, and all of that. And I said, brother, I just want you to acknowledge, that people in your line was dealing with Europeans and selling slaves. He was like, well, I don't really know because, I honestly, I don't really know. I don't study that much. And, yeah, we did, but it's oral history. So I'm like, bro, you know everything about everybody else's shit. But when it comes to your people, you don't want to talk about what they did. So he was doing the traditional African dance away from it, but he said he's going to commit to studying about his people's involvement with Europeans. So he might
Well,
do a show on that.
I don't know about him personally. I don't take any of these Africans serious because these Africans will study engineering, physics, theoretical physics. I mean, some of the most brilliant minds are these Africans, but you ask them about their spirituality, they know nothing, right? You ask them about everything else, but everything, they know nothing. So I tend not to take them serious, right? It's all nonsense. But um, you know, I was telling you about the independence document, and you talked about the Commonwealth. So I don't know if you can see this here. Is it? Should I zoom in some more? Can you see this?
Yeah, just read it for me, please, and drop the link. Let people join the
Okay,
conversation. I want your
I'm gonna.
channel to get bigger. Pause.
Actually, I don't.
Um,
No, no, no homo. It's
are
fine.
you good?
No, because look, listen. I like this. Right. This is meaningful. In 2, 3, 4 years, somebody can watch this video, an African and an African American, I'm gonna sound like Martin Luther King now, can watch this video and say, oh, wait a minute, nah, we are cousins, we are family. We have differences, but these are differences that can be bridged. You understand what I'm saying? I can eat soul food. You can, even though fufu, whatever, I don't touch all that stuff, but that's a
No,
whole
I
nother
fuck with
conversation,
you
you know.
neither.
But yeah, so I think I don't necessarily need to get big and ask for money. I'm not trying to do all that. I just want my channel. No disrespect to anybody who does take money or whatever. I just want it to be really intellectual based, right? Like that's the whole premise of this channel. It's like none of the other stuff. But let's look at what again lawyers, Nigerian lawyers, signed off on. So let me. So it says blah 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 on the first day of October 1960. In this act, blah, 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 referred to as the appointed day, the colony and protector, as respectively defined by the Nigeria Constitution, Orders, and Council, shall together constitute part of Her Majesty's dominions under the name of Nigeria. So look, let's read here. Shall together constitute part of Her Majesty's dominions under the name Nigeria. So look at what they did. So they basically said, you're under our dominion. However, look at what they did to save themselves. They said, no act of parliament of the UK passed on or after the appointed day shall extend or be deemed to extend or be deemed, right? So it's not clear to Nigeria or any part thereof as part of the law thereof. And as from that day, Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom shall have no responsibility for the government of Nigeria or any part thereof. And the provisions of the first schedule of this act shall have effect respective to legislative powers in Nigeria. So effectively, what they did was they created a franchise model. They did the Chick-fil-A. So when you own a Chick-fil-A franchise, right, you only own it for your life. You can't pass it on, like unlike other franchise models where like a McDonald's, you can pass it on to your children. It goes back to the company. So right here, the area known as Nigeria is under Her Majesty's dominion. However, Her Majesty is no longer financially responsible for Nigeria. So it's like, you Negroes can starve. I don't give a damn. I still own the land. And you can see that that's still playing to this day. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunately what happened. Not only I don't want to beat up on Nigeria, and this will be a first for that, because that what you just read, similar things happen in a lot of other countries, and it's so sad that you would have lawyers who are fluent in the Queen's English that would sign off on some kind of nonsense. That's pretty much like a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, but I'll call you when I need you, but don't call me type of shit. You know what I'm saying? It's weird, bro. I honestly think that look, I don't like I say, I never try to out African an African about Africa. But
No, brother, but you are an African. You're an African in
I'm
America.
a black
But
American of African descent. I'm not an African.
but you see, and I get where you're coming from, but I wouldn't want, and I understand you have your position, but I feel you do have a birthright and entitlement to that land,
Oh, well,
regardless of
so
wherever
then
you may find yourself.
I got you. So yeah, that's why I'm in these spaces. Like motherfuckers can't kick me out these spaces. Like, look, sorry, say what you want. You can plot me in Legos, and if I'm dusty enough, no one will tell that I'm a black American. Let me get some Lego Sun for like a week or two. You know what I'm saying? Let me learn how to say oh the right way. Then I could pass. I'll be like Nigerian passing. But they actually thought I was Nigerian in Ghana for a second. Until I spoke to the dude. Then he was actually saying how he hated Nigerians in Ghana. I said, yo, who the F you talking to? He looked at me and then he turned back the other way. But anyway, I know you're not a fan of Nigeria in terms of like it's the white man's real estate supposedly. Now would you be in favor of these nations succeeding from Nigeria and becoming Yoruba land, Isoko land. Well, I think the Yoruba and or what is it um, the southwest, south and southeast kind of becoming one, and then the north becoming another, and then maybe central region or something becoming its own uh thing. Basically, the breakup of Nigeria. What do you feel about
Before I answer, so the link is in the chat, guys. If you want to call in and talk about what me and Nakmeezy have been building on, please. This is it's not no disrespect to anybody. We're not doing the whole. We're respectful. This is an intellectual space, highly theoretical. This is what we're engaging in. I don't want to know anything about your personal life. I don't care what you ate for dinner on Thursday. I don't care what your grandma did in 1935. Don't matter. I just want your good ideas and strong arguments. So just putting that out there for whoever wants to call in. Um, here's a point about the the argument for Nigeria breaking up, right? In the sense that, on one hand, it's not practical, right? Because it exists, right? So that would be foolhardy. So again, for me, it's somewhat theoretical. On the other hand, the ethnicities, if you really study Nigerian history, so-called Nigeria, the history, you'll realize something, Knock, that the only true, and I say this tongue in cheek, but I'm saying it out, not to offend anyone. The only real true ethnicities, for the most part, are the smaller ones. That would be like the Isokos. That would be like the Edos, the Urobos, the Ishans, right? The Tiv. The reason why I say that is because before the Europe, there was no Yoruba identity. There's no king of the Yoruba, right? As a matter of fact, the way the Yoruba is spoken in different regions, the dialects can be almost mutually unintelligible to one another. So the dominant dialect of Yoruba that most people hear today is Lagosian Yoruba. So you hear a word like miliki, which is milk. You understand what I'm saying?
that?
So
Wow.
yes. So miliki is really milk, which is just their way. Oh, they just ran into milk. Oh, miliki. You understand? So what you see is that there was never, even with the Igbos, right? I wanted to bring up the Arochuku because that's another part. Because matter of fact, I'll bring up the Arochuku after I say this, and I'll get your response, and I'll touch on the Arochuku, what they were doing, and just to show you what's still happening to this day. Um, the Igbos, there was no unified Igbo ethnicity; it didn't exist. As a matter of fact, one can even argue that these ethnicities became even more solid after the Civil War. After the Civil War, because there's I saw one video where there was a gentleman, he was Igbo, he took a DNA test, and he found out that he had Fulani and Hausa in his DNA. So what does that mean? That means grandma or grandpa was sneaking out. You get what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
the only people that really had like a real solidified ethnic consciousness were those smaller groups like the Isokos, the Ishans, the Edos, the and that's what it kind of was. And Africa, especially West Africa, had like a culture complex. So what would happen is that because they was so similar, you could grab a Ghanaian or a person from the Ashanti and dump him in, let's say Akwa Ibom. All he would have to do is learn the language. There was so much cultural similarity in terms of, okay, you got to respect your mothers, respect the fathers, this, so much culture. He could easily float in and out and within. And there's a great book that talks how Igbo and Yoruba became separate languages, which makes me question all this Bantu, Niger, Kwa classification. These are all European classifications that we're under. It's like magic. It's occultism. They tell us what we are and we just accept it. So, you know, on one hand, to answer your question, I know it's somewhat long-winded. Yes, I can understand the push because of the mismanagement of this British real estate, right? Like the property managers suck, basically. These are slumlords. If you want to put it in economic terms, the leaders of Africa are slumlords.
Facts.
That's what they pretty much are. They're all slumlords. They could do a much better job of renovating, maintaining, and fixing those apartments. They don't want to, largely because, they don't have any allegiance with the people on the ground. Their their masters are in the West, blah blah blah. It goes on and on. So I think it's complicated. I will say that if, for example, the West was to collapse tomorrow, no more United States, no more Europe, I don't think Nigeria would exist. And so let me pull up those things. I want to hear your response to that. And again, if you want to call in, the link is in the chat.
I think you made a great point saying that it's, the property managers are slumlords. And the other point is that look, it already exists and is already a historical event where they tried to pull out and create Biafra. That didn't work out too well, So I think it's a good fantasy, but I just think logistically it can't happen. So yeah, I was just curious about what you thought about that.
No, I think it can happen if it's managed properly, right? But the problem is that the intellectual and leadership class in Africa are slumlords. They have a
Let me ask you a
poor,
question: is the
yeah.
military still dominated by Northerners?
At the upper echelon, of course. I mean, you do have Southerners who are in positions, of course, but it's still dominated largely with the upper echelons, the people who are in top positions, of course, yeah.
Okay. Yes, that tribalism shit. Well, that ethnicide or ethnicism again. But your brother,
Yeah, yeah, not me,
I
because I'm
worked
I'm
12
looking for the
hours
stuff.
today.
Yeah. Oh, you
I
gotta
worked
go. You
12.
gotta go.
It's not that I gotta go, but I've been up since
No, no, that's
since this
understandable.
morning when I pulled up on you, and then I worked a 12-hour shift, and I in about 5 hours I'd have been up for 24 hours. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call it a night, my brother.
Yes.
I appreciate you.
Okay.
We speak in the chat, so I want to know as much as you can tell me about where you've trained or whatever, because maybe we know the same people or whatever. Watch some of my videos. If you're listening, watch some of my videos. Listen with an open mind. If you don't agree, then say it in the chat. I do it not for super chats and subscriptions. I do it to have real conversations, right? But these conversations are solutions based. So once we have the convo, what are you gonna do with the information? So I'm gonna close on that. My brother, we can link up another time, and maybe
Yes,
you, me,
definitely.
and somebody else could get on the chat together. All right,
All right,
peace.
man. Get your rest. Alrighty. So I'm gonna leave the link again. I'm gonna post it if you want to call in. I'll be here for another 2 minutes. If no one calls in, then we'll end out. However, we'll be back on in about another 2 hours. Jose Bronze and I, and we might have another guest. So we're gonna have another conversation with Jose Bronze and I. So again, I'm gonna post the link if you want to call in and give your opinion on what you heard. You can call in. Well, so we're gonna end it. We're gonna close out. Oh, hold on. Kaiser just said he's coming up in 3 minutes. Okay, Kaiser, I'll wait for you. Okay, Kaiser, I'm waiting for you.